Lads, how are you? Welcome back to Plastic Paddy's podcast. Cade Meal the Vulture to you all. This is episode number 18. Thank you so much for listening, and just thank you for being with me on this journey of trying to start a podcast. Not an easy feat, let me tell you, but I'm having so much fun. I'm learning as I go, and yeah, I love it. So I hope you listened to last week's episode 16 and 17, which were the two parts of my chat with the historian Roisin McNally on all things like gods, goddesses, and the mythological creatures of Ireland. Sadly, it was also the last episode on the topic of mythology, so very soon the big old rainbow wheel will be back out and I'll be giving it a spin to figure out what my next topic is going to be. However, for the next few weeks, we're actually taking a break from the wheel. Reason being is that I've got like an exciting little series coming your way. I don't know if I actually can call it a series. That might be a reach, but let me explain. So, the Edinburgh Fringe Festival is coming up very soon, which is, for anyone that might not have heard of it, it is the world's largest performance festival. It runs throughout the whole of August, and it's just a month of different performances by artists of all different disciplines in Edinburgh, obviously. So with that in mind, Edinburgh Fringe coming up, I reached out to Joe O'Neill, who is the founder of the Irish Creative Collective, who I've spoken about on here many, many times. They're amazing. They will be linked down below, so please go and give them a follow, go to their website, etc. I mentioned to Joe, you know, would any members of the collective be up for having a chat with me, you know, in the lead up to the Fringe? And it turns out quite a few people were taking shows to the Fringe from the Irish Creative Collective, and they all seem to be really up for having a chat with me. So that's really exciting. So I have coming up in the next few weeks talks with, I'm going to list them now, comedian and writer Caroline MacEvoy, comedian and writer Marty Gleeson, director and writer Emma Copeland, and comedian, actor and writer Lee Douglas. So for the next few weeks, you'll hear me chatting to these amazing women about their upcoming shows and just like their careers in general and just like getting to know them a little bit. I had an absolute blast filming with all of them. They're amazing, amazing people and super, super talented. So I'm really excited for you to hear all these amazing interviews. So this week is the first of those interviews, and as I said, I'm chatting to the wonderful Caroline MacEvoy about her upcoming stand-up show, Street Smart. Lads, yeah, I hope you enjoy the chat. Caroline MacEvoy. Hi, welcome to Plastic Paddy's podcast. Thank you so much for coming on.
No, thank you for having me.
Lads, I have to admit this, okay? I'm just going to put it out there. We've already recorded this once. We were in this same room, in this same position, and somebody didn't press record. I cannot apologise enough, and thank you so much for coming back for a second.
I was going to say, you're taking away from the magic.
I know.
It's not an organic. It is an organic conversation. You've never talked about any of this before.
She's never seen the questions that I said.
What?
No, but I have to be honest because I felt so bad, Caroline. Honestly, I can't even tell you, it was awful.
Oh, it's all right.
So thank you so much for being a good sport.
No, it's all good.
And coming back. But that's not why we're here. We are here to talk about your Edinburgh Fringe show. Tell me all about it. It's called Street Smart.
Yeah.
What is it? What can we expect?
Okay, so Street Smart, it is a 45-minute stand-up storytelling show, and it's my first ever solo show that I've taken to the Fringe. I've done like split bill shows before and stuff like that. Like last year I did a show which was 30 minutes and that I split over an hour with my friend who also did 30 minutes. But this year it's 45 minutes on my own. And the show is kind of a compilation of all of my, I guess, best bits of stand-up, but I'm sort of trying to wind it together to be something that's cohesive and kind of tells a bit of a story about who I am, what I'm like, and what I'm not like, and I'm not street smart. That is very much an ironic title.
Okay.
This might be obvious from my entire background. It's kind of me exploring everything from like growing up in Northern Ireland to like moving to London to just telling different stories and stuff about my life. And I think ultimately, if I was kind of to be like, oh, what's the theme? I feel like it's probably ultimately about just trying to fit in and like
Relatable. We've all been there, guys.
Yeah. Yeah, that's sort of the idea of it.
Amazing. And when is it on, and where can we see it?
So it's on every day from the 3rd to the 13th of August. So that's the first half of the Fringe. It's at 5 p.m. and it's at the Caves in Just the Tonic. I'm going to be in the spare room.
Nice.
Yeah.
So my next question was going to be, how did you come up with the name and how did you come up with the concept? But you just told us because you're incredibly not street smart.
Oh yeah, it's an ironic. It's very much an ironic time. Basically, like the show, I go into like a lot of different like kind of embarrassing stories about ways that I've kind of tried to be cool and then sort of failed to be cool. Yeah. Without giving anything away. One of the stories is sort of about like a drug deal gone wrong and stuff like that. So I think a lot of like the that's sort of where the idea of the show kind of came from. I mean, it's also like, it's a work in progress, right? Because it's a 45-minute show, and it's sort of my basis from which I'll then develop my first hour show. But I'm starting out with like, okay, I'm going to do this 45 minutes and find the kind of connecting themes and figure out what's working and what's not working, and then take that and reshape it so that by this time next year, hopefully, I'll be working up to debut.
She's gonna have an hour. That's really, really exciting. Well done, you. I just want to give you your flowers because I feel like you're being very nonchalant and casual, but taking a solo show to the Edinburgh Fringe is a massive, massive deal. Congratulations, well done, and I hope you are very proud of yourself because it's a big achievement.
I'm feeling good. Yes, I'm feeling great. I'm not tired at all.
No, she's not going to be falling asleep by the end of this podcast. Amazing. So you said you've done the Fringe before as part of a duo. This is your first solo, like we said. Is the lead up feeling different?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, in some ways, I kind of knew what to expect because I went through it for the first time last year. So I already know about I knew about getting on top of ordering my flyers and delivering flyers. I knew I had to apply early and just make sure I got the room and the time slot that I wanted and stuff like that. But at the same time, this year, I mean, when you do it with a friend like I did last year, you kind of have someone that you can kind of bounce off and kind of you organize everything together and it feels like more of a joint effort. Whereas now I'm doing everything on my own. So it does kind of feel like double the work. Yeah. Which is fine. But I'm sort of glad I did it last year with my friend Farah first because now I know what to expect. Whereas if I'd done it for the first time on my own, I think I could easily have been overwhelmed. Yeah, I can imagine that. So you dipped your toe last year and then you sort of, that's good. I feel like that's sensible. I think, and I must say, I was guilty of this when I first ever heard about Fringe festivals and all the rest of it. I think a lot of people would generally think that the life of a stand-up comedian, especially someone taking a show to Edinburgh Fringe, is quite glam. You know, it's after parties and it's free invitations to this place and free drinks wherever you go and it's champagne and all the rest of it. What is that true? What is it like at the Fringe Festival? What does it entail? What's a day in the life? I would say it's not like that, unless you're famous.
Oh, dear me.
It's kind of it's a bit of a grind. Like in a good way, it's fun, but you wake up and every day you're like, okay, you say my show's at 5 p.m, so I'm expecting I'm going to get up and I'll probably get ready, go into the city. I'll try and see some shows during the day, but then everything will kind of be leading up to my show at 5 p.m. And then for at least an hour and a half before my show, I'm going to have to go out and flyer. And that means just approaching people on the street and cancelling them and being like, please come see my show.
Jesus, that's a proper hustle.
Yeah, it's quite, when you then do that, and you've already been on your feet all day, and then after that you have to go and perform your actual show for 45 minutes, that's tiring. Plus, as a comedian, what you often do, and what I've been doing, to be fair, is you also pick up other spots. So you go to the Fringe, and I've already booked onto multiple compilation shows and stuff like that. So there's a lot of me running around the city, both performing and seeing shows, and you're just kind of on your feet all day. And the thing about the Fringe as well is most comedians who go up are not famous, therefore they're not gonna sell out their run. So you can sometimes have done all that work and be performing to a little room of an audience of less than 10 people. Oh. Sometimes. Hopefully that doesn't happen.
Fingers crossed. Anyone listening, go to Caroline MacEvoy.
Yeah, please. It's gonna be great. But yeah, so, I mean, it's just a lot of work. And I think like the life of the stand-up in general, it's funny that people get this idea, maybe they see the people on TV.
Yeah, I think that is what it is.
Yeah, it's not like that. It's a lot of, I have performed in a lot of basements, is what I would say. But it's okay.
Yeah. Fair enough. They're hustling, guys, like all of us. So what are you looking forward to the most about the Fringe, and what are you looking forward to the least?
I'd say, honestly, the most, apart from actually like doing my show, performing my show, because I know so many comedians who are going up to the Fringe, in a way, it's going to feel like a big holiday.
Yeah.
In a city where my friends
fun.
are just there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like I'll be like, the really fun thing about it is Edinburgh's so small, and kind of almost everyone I'm going to know from the London circuit's going to be there. So I'll be just wandering around and bumping into people all over the place. And then there ends up being like a lot of nights out and trips to the pub, and you get to go see your friends' shows as well. Yeah. That's really fun. Yeah.
That's really exciting.
Yeah. I guess in terms of stuff I'm not looking forward to, probably the flyering. Yeah, because it's just tiring, and I do a lot of like canvassing people anyway for various shows I've been involved in over the years, and sometimes you're like, oh, it'd be nice to just show up and not have had to drag anyone.
Oh no. Yeah, I can imagine that's really hard work, and especially, you know, you only have so much energy, and it takes, you know, you exert a lot of energy writing a show, doing all the work beforehand, everything behind the scenes that us, you know, normies don't see, and then also performing the show is quite, you know, you're exerting a lot of energy doing that. So I can't imagine then having to strap the face on and go out to people and be like, "Come see my show." Yeah. So listen, props to you, girl, because I could not be doing that. No way, no how. But I hope it goes well.
It'll be fine.
Yeah, it will. If you were taking someone with you to the Fringe for the first time this year, and they were doing their first ever solo, or even a split bill, what advice would you give them?
I think the biggest piece of advice I could give to anyone is just as you were saying, you can really overexert yourself, and it can actually be quite draining. And I think I did that a little bit last year, because my show was also quite late at night and I wasn't getting enough sleep. And the biggest thing I would say is just like, make sure that you take that time for yourself as well. Yeah. Because you can sometimes get like almost a sense of FOMO, like when you're out and everybody's doing
that. Would be me 100%.
Yeah, but you've got to just kind of like take a step back sometimes, make sure you get enough sleep, make sure you're eating properly, look after, without being too like worldly about this, but do look after your mental health, because it can just be a bit of a kind of an emotional roller coaster sometimes, depending on how each day is going, depending on how your show's going, whether it's gone really well or maybe whether it hasn't gone exactly how you expected it to. And I think it's just making sure that you're allowing yourself a certain amount of time to also recharge, because you're living there. You can't just be going all the time, or you will keel over and die. So don't die. Find the balance. Yes, that's very good advice. But you know what's going to happen, especially like younger ones in their 20s. They're going to get there and they're going to be like, I want to away for the first time. I'm going to be like, that would be me 100%. People turn up to my show, it'd just be me drunk on stage. Terrible. So let's talk a little bit more about yourself, if you're okay with that. You mentioned before you're from Northern Ireland. Yes. How, if it has your upbringing, you know, influenced your comedy? Do you come from a funny family? I feel really bad saying this. Probably not. I think, sorry guys, sorry family. No, look, my family are great. I think my dad thinks he's funny, if you know what I mean.
Is it dad joke?
He loves the dad joke.
That's so like endearing to me though.
I mean, it is endearing, or it's annoying.
Or no,
when you have like years of it.
When your friends are coming around and he's like, oh
yeah, very much like that. Like we'll be at like dinner, and sometimes what he'll do as well is he'll kind of start a really long joke, which he clearly learned or like read somewhere, and it'll just go for ages and ages and ages and ages, and then finally reach the punch line, and he'll be like, and you'll be like, no, but
that's really sweet.
Yeah, he is sweet. It's just sort of like funny sometimes, because I don't know, it's just funny.
Do you find yourself, now like you do this as a profession, do you find yourself judging people on their comedy now? Like in your everyday life, you find yourself being like, it's not that, you're not that funny.
Oh no, like not people normally. Like, I mean, because also it'd be weird if everyone was going around like doing things.
Yeah.
It's more, I think it's, but I probably am more judgmental now, critical in a
that's the word we'll say,
as an art form.
Yeah.
If I go to like a comedy club, because I know I have a much more like sophisticated understanding of stand-up because I've been doing it and knowing what it takes to do it, I have a much more kind of nuanced idea of like what I think is good versus what I think is not so good versus what I think, or maybe I'm like, I can see the skill that's gone into that, even if it's not necessarily what my taste is. So I feel like I've got a much more critical eye. It's very hard because you're constantly like editing and critiquing yourself. It's very hard to then go to a club and turn that off when you're watching other people.
Do you enjoy it now? Can you go to a stand-up night and still enjoy it like an audience member?
Oh, I definitely can. Like, I love it. Like, I love watching it, and I like there's just so much, like, there's so many amazing comedians out there like doing really great, innovative stuff all the time. So I definitely can enjoy it. But I would say I'm probably not just turning off when I'm doing it. It's like a different type of enjoyment.
But I suppose once you know the behind the scenes stuff and what goes on, you know, what goes into making a show and writing a show, you can't really turn it off, can you?
Yeah.
Because you would see it, you would be like, I understand why, you know, I know that this punchline is coming, I understand, I can see that he's building up to something, or I get why he said that, or put that in there. So I suppose, I get that.
I guess it would be like if you were like a trained artist, and you'd gone to like fine art school, and then you went to a gallery, you're going to appreciate it, but you're going to appreciate it in like a different way.
Yeah,
you understand just how hard it was to mix that colour, or like do that particular perspective, or
that's completely true. And do you find, if you ever tell people, like when you introduce yourself and tell people that you're a comedian, do you get the feeling that people are trying to like make you laugh, like look at me, look how funny I am, like approve of me?
I don't know if I get that. I get a lot of like most people are like, oh, that's really interesting. Yeah. But you always get someone who's like, I think I could do stand-up. Yeah. You always get someone who's like, oh, tell us a joke. And it's the worst thing. Like, I don't think comedians, if you ever like tell us a joke from your set now, I think most of us hate it, because also context is everything. Like, if I said a lot of my jokes just now, you'd be like, okay. Yeah. It really is, isn't it? That it's like a skill. It's not just I'm funny and I'm going to stand up on stage and tell people what I think is funny. It's really an art form and a skill that you learn. So I can imagine it's really annoying. And I feel like there aren't many other careers that people would do that to. Like, you wouldn't, I don't know that if somebody met someone in a social group and they was like, oh, I'm a doctor, I don't think they would go, oh, can you just diagnose, I've got this funny thing on me, can you just diagnose it for a second? Yeah. They'd be like, very inappropriate. But I can imagine you get tell us a joke constantly. Yeah. And I bet that's the most common thing that all comedians get when they tell people that they're a comedian. The first thing is, go on then, tell us a joke. Yeah. Annoying. So, would you say that you're, obviously, you know, your family, sorry family, you're not, she said you're not very funny. But you're nice. But would you say that your cultural background has also influenced your comedy? Like, do you find that your sense of humour is very much like a Northern Irish sense of humour? Do you think a lot of your jokes centre around that as well? Yeah, I think it's a good question. I think I think the answer is kind of twofold. I think, in terms of like what I find funny, I think a lot of Northern Irish people and Scottish people have a bit of a dark sense of humour. Yeah. And I do like dark jokes. And sometimes my jokes kind of can veer towards being a bit dark. Sometimes I'm like, I could go darker, but I definitely find that kind of stuff funny. Yeah. In terms of how I guess where I'm from has influenced like what I put into my stand-up. I think there's, especially because I'm like not living in Northern Ireland and I'm in London performing to London audiences, I feel like the automatic thing that you reach for is talking about like the fact that you're not from London and you're not from England. So I definitely, the very first like set I ever wrote was very much like focused on like stuff about being from Northern Ireland, and I still have like some of those jokes have kind of changed and gone in a different direction over the years, but I definitely still have like a core set of jokes that I return to and I tell if I want to like establish who I am and go into anything about Northern Ireland. Yeah. I think like the very first set I ever wrote came out of, I did like a little beginner's course, like Angel Comedy, and the guy who was running the course, he basically went around the room and pointed to each person in the class and was like, you're this, you talk about this, you're this, you talk about this. And with me it was, you're from Northern Ireland, why don't you talk about that? So yeah, it's sort of come from that.
Yeah, nice. By the way, anyone that doesn't know about Angel Comedy, get yourselves down there because it is unreal. It's like a free comedy night that's set up by comedians. And yeah, they're just brilliant.
Yeah,
I will link like their website or whatever below. They're really good.
They are great.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you only started doing comedy in 2019. Is that right?
Yeah.
She's a movie. She's a freshie. Well, I suppose it doesn't feel like that, and it's all the graphic you put in, and now we're to Edinburgh.
I'm new. I need all the new act competitions to know I'm new.
What made you start? What made you want to do comedy?
I think it was kind of random in some ways. Like, I'm not someone who like grew up being like, oh, I really want to do that. I think I never really thought I could do it, and I don't know why. I think I just didn't understand like how to start. And when I was younger, I used to do a lot of writing, but I also used to do a lot of like drama in school, and like, you know, the Christmas, like the church pantomime and stuff like that, all that stuff. And then when I got older, like, and I moved to London, I was like, I kind of just got set up with my day job, and I was kind of like, oh God, like, what do I do now? Like, and I started sort of thinking about stuff I used to do for fun when I was younger, which was a lot of the drama. And initially I thought, oh, maybe I should do like an adult like acting course. And then I found out about this random improv like thing, and I thought, oh, I'll do that for fun and see. And then someone on the improv course, he was doing stand-up. And I was like, oh, I'll come watch one of your shows. And when I went and I watched him, I was like, I want to do this. Yeah, it was like a light bulb. I was like, oh, this is like the thing that I actually want to do, because it's sort of combining. I'd always written and performed separately, and I was like, oh, this is the thing that brings it together. And it's just so much fun. It's so much fun.
Oh, amazing. Because I suppose unless you're going to be like an actress, like stand-up is really one of the only sort of arts that you write, you perform, you are completely in charge of everything. So I bet it's really good to have that complete freedom and just be like, I'm going to say what I want to say, and you lot are going to find it funny. Amazing. So how does one go about writing a stand-up bit? Like, how do you do a set? Where does your inspiration come from? Like, is it literally sitting down at a table and writing it? Do you make notes in your phone? Like, what's the process for you?
I think the process probably varies for everybody, but for me, it used to be, because I had like written prose and stuff when I was younger, I used to sit at my laptop and be like, okay, I need to stay here for ages and try and come up with stuff. And I've realised that that's not actually the best way for me to write stand-up. So now it's much more like, I'll make a note on my phone. I've got like a whole running list of stuff on my phone. And if I see something weird in the street, or someone says something funny, or I say something funny in conversation, I'll make a note, and then I'll come back to it and I'll look at it. And the way I kind of expand jokes is I just kind of start asking myself questions about like an idea, and then those questions often lead to interesting places, and then I can kind of almost take the answers to those questions and then turn them into jokes. And from doing like writing comedy, there are like certain principles you can follow. Like, there's like rules that everybody knows, like the rule of 3, which is like you say 3 things as like the punchline. Maybe the third one could like break the pattern. There's kind of like how you form a joke, like the setup is like the thing that is true. This is me literally, this description is me lifting from a podcast where this other comedian, Mike Birbiglia, describes this, but I think it's a really good way of saying it. It's like you have the setup, which is kind of the statement that's true, and you have the punchline, which is the turn you didn't see coming, and then you have the tag, which is something that like builds out the joke, which could be like an act out or like an extra thought. So there's like steps.
It's like a full, this is crazy.
There's like little formulas.
I have no idea about this stuff.
So there's like little formulas you can use, and knowing the formulas, you can then take them into your jokes. But at the same time, I don't always want to follow like little structures, because then you can get predictable. So you need to kind of, you can use those and they're tools and they're useful, but you also want to like mix it up.
That's crazy. I really feel like that was such a good little insight, because who would know that that's what you do? When you're watching a stand-up show, you literally think, oh, a funny thing happened to this person, and now they're just on stage like telling me about it. I really feel like nobody really knows that it's a skill, it's a proper art form, it's a proper skill. That's really cool. So when you've written a new piece of material, like, who or where or how do you test it straight away? Do you like run to your partner and be like, I've found this really funny thing, can you tell me if it's funny? Or do you just have an instinctual sort of trust within yourself, like, actually I know this is funny?
It depends. Sometimes I definitely run stuff past my boyfriend because he's also a comedian, so sometimes, which can be good and bad, but one of the good things is we can both like say bits to each other, or like, what do you think of this idea? But the best thing for me to test an idea is just literally going to a comedy night and saying it in front of people.
Or just going in dry, just like, I mean, I've tried this before and I'm just going to do it. That's brave, well done.
Yeah, usually I'll have like kind of a rough idea of what I'm going to say, and then a lot of the time, like, you'll go through it and you'll just listen and hear where they laugh, and then you follow the laughs.
Yeah, amazing. And I think once you've been doing it for a while, you know, it's your profession and you're really good at it, so you obviously have a sense for what is funny and what's not funny.
So it's
not like going on stage like, I don't think this is good, but I'm going to try it anyway. So I would think,
well, you say that, but I'm definitely I've definitely seen people with their phones out like, oh, this is going to work.
But terrifying. That could never be me.
No. It's fun.
I feel like my like stand-up set would just be me like calling people, like insulting people, just be like calling them sluts and stuff. Like my idea of humour, in the like late 90s and early 2000s, I watched so much Friends, and I think my idea of humour became like the type of humour that you can only have between really close friends. So like, but you can't call strangers sluts. That's not funny to them. It's just an insult.
I think you could call strangers sluts.
That's it.
I think you could do it.
Sign me up.
You just come on and you're like, yourself. Yeah, you're a
slut.
Yeah, you could do that. People would love it because there's no expected.
That's so funny. So, get me into your mindset. You are backstage, you're about to walk onto a show. Have you got any little, you know, some people have that really funny little things that they do every time. Have you got one of those, like a little routine or a little some people like, oh, I need to scratch my neck 3 times, or I need to wear the same shoes or whatever it is?
Oh, I don't. Like, some people definitely do, like, you're right, like, definitely some people have little, like, pre-gig rituals. A lot of my thing recently has just been, like, being calm and relaxed. Actually,
were you a nervous Nelly? Did you let the nerves like?
Sometimes the nerves will affect how I perform if I'm too nervous, and it will come out a bit like wooden or like not feeling natural. So a lot of me is like trying to relax. And actually, a big thing I've been doing recently is just telling myself that it doesn't matter. It could be like the biggest gig in the world, but I'll be like, fuck it, what's the worst that can happen?
Well done, you.
Because you have to. It's almost like if I can just let go of all the stuff around it and just be like, fuck it, be grand. Then that's kind of actually me in my best mode to go on stage and to stand up.
Absolutely. I saw you once at the London Irish.
I
saw you performing at a night of Irish comedy, and you were really, really funny.
Oh, thank
you.
Really
funny. Can I tell you something without you being insulted? When you came on stage, do you know who you reminded me of? Do you watch Harry Potter?
Oh yeah.
Do you know who I'm going to say? Do you know the actress that plays Mona Myrtle?
Oh, that's so funny.
She's Scottish in real life, I think, but you really reminded me of her.
Oh my god, that's so funny. I've actually had that.
Have you actually?
In primary school, because also I wore big glasses.
Oh,
and maybe I was wearing glasses when I
think you were. I think you were. Subconsciously, I'm not.
So actually, I don't know what you were going to say. I was like,
no, I was going to be like, can I say something about offending you? Okay, so what was your first ever gig like?
Oh,
do you remember it?
Yeah, I do. So it was when I was sort of still doing the little stand-up course, and that was like, I don't know, 6 weeks or something. I was coming towards the end of it, and I was just like, oh, I'm just going to sign up to something. So I signed up to a little open mic, showed up, was the only girl on the lineup, which I've been told might happen sometimes, but I was still like, oh. And then, but it was actually a really good experience overall, because the guy who was running the gig knew it was my first gig.
Oh, nice.
I told him when I applied, and he was like, it's your first gig, isn't it? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, okay, I'll put you on. So he put me on third, which is like quite a nice point in the lineup, because the crowd are a bit warmed up by then. And then before he brought me on stage, he like announced to the room, it was my first gig.
Yeah.
And so therefore everyone was super sweet and they were all like laughing and I was like, I'm so funny. And then now I realise in retrospect they were all just being really nice. And they were like, oh
no, that's not true. But I can imagine that definitely eased the nerves somewhat. I think, yeah. Oh, that's really kind. Have you ever been? Has there ever been a bad one where you've been like heckled or booed or anything like that?
Yes, of course, but not like it's not as bad as people think it is.
Yeah,
I think what happens is people post stuff online. They post like these heckling videos, and everyone's like, "Oh, I could never go to a stand-up gig.
Yeah.
It looks like it's awful," but it's not really like that. You just occasionally get like weak comments or like. I think I've not actually really had anyone sort of heckling me in the sense of trying to be like rude or mean. What will sometimes happen is like people are just so like maybe a bit drunk or maybe just excited to be there and they start talking to you and that's heckling, but they're just trying to join in or they're trying to be funny themselves.
Yeah.
But it kind of like ruins your set a little bit and you have to deal with it.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if there's any like recent examples. Like, oh, there was just last night, like she didn't mean any harm, but I was hosting a show at my night, Comedy Bandits, and I was hosting and this family came in a bit late and the mum was Irish and she was, I think she was a bit drunk, and she just was like, she just kept interrupting me. So like I'd start, because she was Irish, I'd start being like, oh, I'm from Northern Ireland, which would be like a leading to my joke, but then she'd be like, boo, and I'd be like, oh my god, and you have to like kind of deal with her a bit. But she she shut up for the acts, which was good. But just with me, I guess the thing is as well, when you're emceeing, I think audiences know they have a bit more license to talk to you because that's their job. But it's not, when it's during sets, like I always, when I do my show, I always like make sure the audience know like, you can talk to me, but don't interrupt the acts. And sometimes they still do, but you do your best to kind of manage it.
Brutal. And when that happens, is it literally just off the top of it, like you just have to have something to come back at? Like it's not like there's like a little treasure trove of comebacks, you just have to do it off the top of your head.
Yeah.
I think that would, I would just freeze. I'd just be like, oh, sorry, here's the next act, I'm going to win it. That's terrifying. But I suppose it must keep you sharp in a way.
I think it's good.
Yeah.
I think that ability to kind of improvise on the spot is so important. That's why I like, even though I'm like not trying to be like a full-time MC, like when I do MC, I like it because it forces me to kind of improvise and think on my feet. It's like using a slightly different skill than say like your comedy, which is much more prepared, but then because you know how to MC and react to the crowd and be present, then that feeds into the comedy. If you then do get disrupted or something happens in the room,
just know how to deal with it, not panicking and stuff. Yeah, that's really good. Do you think that in order to be a comedian you have to sort of be like have funny bones, you have to be naturally funny, or do you think that anybody could do it?
Unless you're like the most like dry person ever, I genuinely think that most people can do it.
Yeah.
Because even if you don't start out like amazing, because some people do start out and you're like, it feels like you've been doing this forever.
Yeah. But you hate them so much.
I don't hate them. I begrudgingly respect them.
Yeah.
But I would say like a majority of people, including myself, we start and we're probably not that good. And we're probably a little bit self-deluded. But I have seen people get funny. Because obviously like I run this night called Comedy Bandits and it's an open mic. So I see people who started off and they're on like their first 10 gigs. And they're fine, but you can see like you're on your first 10 gigs. And then they come back in 6 months and they are crushing it. They're so good. And because so much of it is just practice. And actually, if you do something a lot, I can sometimes see, you might have two people who start and someone seems like they're really good and someone's maybe not so good. But I've seen the person who's not so good overtake the person who's better because they're putting in the work. Yeah. Whereas sometimes I think people who start off and they already are a bit confident, they kind of almost get a bit like, oh, I'm good at this. I don't need to. But it's actually the people who like
put the work in,
that you really see the results in.
Amazing.
It's inspiring.
Right, that's it. I'm starting no, but I think that's true. I think in any creative field, a lot of the time you are just learning as you go. Case in point, herself here. yeah, that's good to know. So anyone thinking of starting a comedy career and you're doubting yourself, go and try it. That's what we're all about on this channel, try new things. Right, final few questions. I want to know, who are some of your inspirations? Who are some of your favourite comedians?
Yeah, I find this question, I've been asked this before, I find it like a bit of a hard question.
Does it change all the time?
It changes, and there's also like people that I just, there's new people that I come across all the time.
Yeah.
I suppose
I'm going to be an arsehole and say like top 3. Who are your top 3?
Okay. So in terms of people who I like really like and I've followed for years, I mentioned Mike Birbiglia already. I really like him. He's this American storytelling comedian. He just is like a master of how to kind of put together just a great story. If you go and watch any of his specials on Netflix, it's just really impressive. He just like lots of like, it's stories, but stories are like a framework for like lots of little jokes.
Yeah.
And he's just very good at kind of pulling that together. And he's loads of like really great R's on Netflix. So I really like him. There's another guy who I saw him quite recently. Like he was in London a few months ago. It's also an American comic. His name is Nate Bargatze, and he was Bargatze. So he's like, I just really like him because he's like a clean comic, which is like a hard thing to do sometimes.
What do you mean when you say clean?
Like he doesn't swear.
No way.
He doesn't do dirty material. Like he's this very clean cut, I think Christian, like he's just very, but it's like that's actually a whole level of like skill to that
absolutely.
Because so many people default to, sometimes the dirty stuff is good, but also
you have to admire the skill level, don't you, to be able to do that.
Exactly. And then I guess if I was to name another person, only because I see her show most years when I go to Edinburgh and I would really like it, is Josie Long, who's a British comedian, but she is, I think the thing I really like about her, which I would not be able to do, but I really like about her, is she's very good at taking like political stuff and making it accessible and fun. And there's like a message to her shows. Like when I went last year, I walked out and I was like, I'm so inspired. But you have to, I'm not very good at kind of taking politics and putting that into my sets. That's not really who I am, but I really respect that she can do it and do it so well.
Yeah, I think I completely agree. Anyone making topics like that accessible, and a lot of people don't want to touch those topics. So anyone making those kind of topics accessible, you never know who's in the audience, and you might just trigger someone to think, I don't know a lot about this. Let me go away and see what I think about it all. So that's very good. Shout out Josie Long. Now I'm going to be the ultimate arsehole and I'm going to ask you to fuck, marry, kill those 3 comedians.
Oh no. Okay. The thing is, I don't want to kill any of them.
See, she's so nice and sweet. I've been like,
no. I just, like, you just told me like to name people that I like.
You love,
Like, who do I kill? I don't. Can I just like?
We won't say kill. We'll just say banish to room 101. Okay. So you won't be getting done for murder, but they will be going away, and no one will ever see them again.
Sad. Okay, maybe. Alright, I think I want to. I'm so sorry. Because I think I'm taking slightly more inspiration.
Okay.
From Mike Birbiglia as a storyteller.
Okay.
We're going to banish Nate.
Okay,
even though he's really sweet and there's nothing wrong.
Nate is gone.
But, he's just like this little clean comic who, like, I don't need him because I'm taking inspiration from Mike Birbiglia, I guess.
I love how much she's thinking about this. It's really sweet. So Nate's gone, Mike Birbiglia's in the sheets, and Josie's down the aisle.
Yeah. Because I think Josie would just be a really nice wife.
Nice. Yeah. There we go. Right, before we go, you've mentioned a couple of times you are the founder and the host of a comedy night yourself.
Yes.
Called Comedy Bandits.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, so it's a comedy night in Clapham. It's an open mic. We run it like weeklies. We run it every Wednesday, every Thursday, at the Railway in Clapham. Clapham, I can't speak. It's free. Yay! We won an award. We're the best open mic comedy night in London.
Oh my god! Caroline, that's amazing!
We won an award. That was earlier this year, so like it's official 2023 Chortle Awards. We won. We also do that weekly. It's usually like a mix of like newbies, people who are like starting out, but also we always make sure we get more experienced acts as well, who like come down and try out stuff. We've had some good people. We've had Harry Kemsley come down. We've had Sam Campbell, who won like Edinburgh Best Show last year, and he just popped it. He like sent me an email a few weeks ago, and he was like, "Can I just drop in?" So sometimes we get drop-ins from like good people. We've got like Steve Bouget comes down a lot. He like wrote and starred in ITV's Buffering, so it's like a mix of like pro comics as well, kind of thing. If it's Akisa, who's been at Live at the Apollo. Helen Bauer.
I'm coming down. That's so cool.
And then we also do every first Friday of the month. We do like a pro show. When I say pro show, what that basically means is it's people who are like on the circuit, who've been going a number of years, and we also have a headliner who's been on TV. So we've had like Reece James, who's been on Mock the Week a bunch of times. We've had a lot. Basically, you can go back and you can look online. What I always say to people is just to follow the Instagram at Comedy Bandits, because that's where we post the lineups, and you can usually see different people who are coming up. And if someone is dropping in, like Sam Campbell, we'll let you know. But yeah.
Oh my god, that's so cool. Well, that's really incredible. I think you're very what's the word? Like you're very not dismissive, but kind of like, oh, we just won an award. That's a huge deal. That's so amazing. Well done. But lads, that's all for this week. Caroline, thank you so much again.
No, thank you for having me.
Before we go, remind everybody about your show.
It's called Street Smart. Yeah, you can search for it on the Edinburgh Fringe website. It is Caroline MacEvoy Street Smart. It is 45 minutes long. It's a stand-up storytelling show. It's on at 5 p.m. every day from the 3rd to the 13th of August. It's at Just the Tonics in the Caves in the spare room. You will see me there. I'll be handing out flyers. It's free or pay what you want. It's free entry, pay what you want, or you can also reserve seats in advance, like £5 in advance on the Edinburgh website as well. So yeah, it would just be great to see you guys there.
Amazing. Lads, it's all linked down below, so please go and buy your tickets to Caroline's show. And I will see you next week. Bye! Lads, that's it for this week. I hope you enjoyed the episode. I absolutely loved making it. Caroline was a great guest and such a good sport. I said in the video that was actually the second time that we had to meet and have that chat, because the first time I didn't press record. What an absolute idiot. Remember when I said making a podcast isn't easy? Yeah, because things like that happen. But she was such a great sport. So Caroline, thank you once again. You're amazing. If you are heading up to the Fringe this year, please do, if you can, go and check out Caroline's show, Street Smart. It's on from the 3rd to the 13th of August. And all the details will be linked in the description below, so you can buy tickets from there and stuff. Also, please go and follow Caroline on social media. Her Instagram is literally just Miss Caroline MacEvoy. And also go and follow her comedy night, which is called Comedy Bandits, which, as you heard in the episode, was voted best comedy night in London. So go and give them a follow and go to one of the comedy nights. And lastly, please go and follow me on all my socials. It's just Plastic Paddy's Podcast on all socials. You know, all the usual YouTube stuff, like, comment, subscribe, share, all that jazz. And yeah, that was that for this week. I'll see you tomorrow. There's another episode coming out tomorrow, episode 19, where I will be chatting with the hilarious comedian and writer Marty Gleeson. Lads, see you tomorrow. Slán!